You're listening to What She Said on Canada Talks.
Hello there, I'm Christine Bentley in studio with Sharon Caddy, and we are joined today by Mary DeRose from DeRose Barristers and Solicitors, which is a boutique firm that has been specializing in personal injury law for close to 40 years. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Christine.
Now, we should mention that personal injury law has changed a lot over the past years, and if you don't keep updated with a reputable firm, then if something happens, you really could be undercompensated, which is something most people don't realize, that these laws change all the time. Now, last week, we did touch on the subject of motor vehicle accidents a little bit, something the majority of our listeners have been involved with in some way,
yeah.
Whether it's them, their child, their neighbor, their whatever. Bottom line, it's really complicated, and there are things you need to keep in mind. So, Mary, you're involved in an accident, probably you're in shock. Most of us are confused. In fact, we don't know what to do next. Sharon and I have talked about this.
Yeah,
right,
honestly, I fortunately, to this point, have not been in that situation. And we were discussing this, saying, if that happened to me tomorrow, I think I would freeze.
Yeah, well, it's a common question that I think most people would have. What I would advise is basically, if you're in an accident and you're injured, seek medical attention first.
Right.
Absolutely. A lot of the times you don't feel the effects of the injuries until a few days later, and if that's the case, then you'd have to seek medical attention at that time. But when you're at the scene, very important, contact the police. A lot of the times the police won't come depending on the damage to the vehicle and the severity of the injuries. But it's important to contact the police, and they may advise you to go to a collision center, and at that point you go to a collision center.
So the first call should probably be to police?
Yes, I would say so, yes.
And,
or an ambulance.
And as inconvenient as some people may think it is important, if it's not one of those where they come to you, you should go to that reporting center, right?
You should go to the reporting center, absolutely. You need to report your version of how the accident happened. And when you're at the scene, if there's any witnesses around, it's important to get their name and contact information, because you never know, right? I mean, once you leave the scene, the other driver may have a completely different version of how the accident happened. It actually happens more often than you would think.
So let me just get this straight. My understanding was, if your damage is above or if it's below a certain amount, you go to the collision reporting center. If it's above a certain amount, you don't. So where in all this, I'm just trying to figure out, where in all this do you phone the insurance company, or do you? I mean,
well, the first thing, while you're at the scene, it's really important to get the information from the other driver, and I would encourage you to get the information yourself. Exchange the information, write it down yourself, so you know it's accurate. And then, obviously at a later point, when you go home or after you sought medical attention, you need to call your insurance company, obviously.
So let's say you're not injured, or you don't think you are injured. So you get their information, you call police anyway, and the police then come and tell you to go to the collision center if it's not serious enough, or?
They may attend the scene, or they may not. They may just tell you to go to a collision center.
And do you call your insurance company before or after that?
You can call your insurance company at any time.
May I interject here? Because this is something I've heard where people get in these fender benders.
Yes.
And the first reaction of the person, say you're rear-ended, the first reaction of the other person is, oh, can we not call this into insurance? And I'm not saying that, this should or shouldn't go on, but perhaps should the question of insurance be, should you wait and see if you have any physical reaction? I don't know if I'd want to commit to someone that I'm not going to do that.
I would automatically report it to the insurance company. Yeah. I mean, you have to. So that's the right thing to do, would be to report it.
Yeah.
And what happens if, for example, at the scene, you're involved and you don't think you're hurt, but sometimes when you're in shock, and then 3 days later, suddenly your neck feels bent, or I'm not sure. I'm trying to imagine. I'm not talking about a serious physical injury. I'm talking about something that, may require some physio, or I'm not sure. Do you have recourse then if you didn't go to a hospital like that day of? Let's say 3 days later, you start feeling pain.
Of course you do. You just, you would go to your family doctor or go to the nearest emergency and have yourself checked out at that point. And then if you find that you're not getting any better, that's when you would probably contact
Right.
someone like a lawyer to get some advice.
But the key would be that accident report. That if you didn't file that accident report, it's pretty hard to go back and say it happened as a result of an accident.
Well, yeah, of course, it needs to be reported, right? And you'd be surprised how many times there's conflicting stories, right? So it's really important to report how the accident happened.
So, okay, what if the other driver doesn't have insurance?
Ooh.
That happens actually more often than you would
Really?
think. Yeah. It happens a lot.
shocking.
We come across it quite a bit. There's situations where there's someone that's not insured, someone that doesn't have enough insurance, and there's availability through your own insurance company. You can claim. You can make the claim for benefits.
Even if they don't have insurance?
Yes, even if they don't have insurance. That's why it's very important to speak with your broker, because your own policy, your insurance policy has protection for that specific...
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it does. And the Insurance Act also affords that same sort of protection for unidentified vehicles as well. So if someone flees a scene and you have no idea who they are, there's again
that was going to be my next
That's
question.
that's really good though, because
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you'd be on the hook for damage, and that wouldn't be very fair. So that's actually really important and good.
Yeah, so it's really important to, speak to your broker too and really ask the questions, what am I really covered for? What's in my policy?
So if somebody flees the scene, is it up to you to then be running around trying to find witnesses? Did you get their license number? Did you get what do you do then?
Well, if there's no witnesses, there's no witnesses. At the end of the day, you just report the accident and you go forward. And
Well, one thing that had really surprised me in our conversation before the show was that, insurance, motor vehicle insurance coverage has changed.
yes,
So things that used to be automatic, that you never even had to think about, now not everything is automatic. And so really, you need to kind of check your policy and have a conversation with your broker. So, Mary, it would be really great for our listeners to know what they should kind of keep their eye out for when the renewal comes up.
Yeah.
Well, talk to your broker, find out, the housekeeping, for example, if you get involved in an accident and you're not able to keep up with your home maintenance or housekeeping chores, that's no longer an automatic. You'd have to buy up that in your policy. So you have to pay an extra premium for it. Caregiver benefit, if you're a single mom, something happens to you and you have children at home, if you don't buy up that protection for a caregiver benefit, you're not going to receive it.
And that used to be automatic?
That used to be, part of it, and now it's an optional benefit. You have to purchase that as an extra.
And do you find that, for example, I guess it's liability where it's $1 million or $2 million?
$1 million, you could buy it up as well.
Is $1 million enough anymore?
You know what?
I boosted mine to $2 million.
It's a good thing. It's better to have more insurance than to be underinsured. So it's protection for yourself at the end of the day. So yeah, I would definitely buy it up.
I was advised by my broker when the last year's renewal came, said, you're at $1 million, and these days, she cited how much more it was to go up, and it was actually very minimal when in the grand scheme of things to get that extra coverage.
Yeah, definitely.
So in terms of claiming benefits, does it matter who's at fault?
Nope. You could be at fault and still have some entitlement to benefits. Absolutely, like the medical benefits are still available for you. Now that's another thing with the buy-up option as well. The medical benefits as it stands right now are $50,000, right, for non-catastrophic cases. So if you buy it up, you'll have access to $100,000.
So what would that cover? And
Physio.
for what period of time?
Well, for 10 years, right?
Right.
So it's physio, chiro, massage, really any kind of treatment that,
Wouldn't $50,000 cover a non-catastrophic?
depends.
I mean,
Depends.
I'm just trying to imagine what I would need more than $50,000 for if it wasn't.
It depends. The
Right.
treatment plans can often run $10,000, $5,000, $3,000 at a time. So each treatment plan that's submitted depends on the amount, right?
Yeah,
what
of course.
services you're receiving.
Yeah. Now, what happens if, does insurance automatically pay, or do we need lawyers in this situation? Because nobody trusts insurance companies because they don't really want to pay you. And of course, people always complain that no matter what happens in an accident, your premiums go up, even if it's not your fault. Like everybody's premiums go up. So there seems to be, a mistrust of insurance companies, and many people, do resort to legal help.
Yeah, well, initially there are a lot of forms, and it can be very overwhelming for people, because if you don't fill out these forms right, you submit them to the insurance company, and your benefits may not start automatically because there's an issue with the form, and some people may not know what to do. So, yeah, I would contact a lawyer at that point if you need help filling out the forms. And, if you get them right, the benefits should start automatically. Sometimes they start, and you get them for a certain period of time, and then they'll be terminated, right? The insurance company may terminate the benefit at any time. So I think at the point of termination would be a time to contact the lawyer.
Or is it something that one should do right off the bat, if you think, not a fender bender, obviously.
No.
You've got a sore neck or a sore arm, and nothing's broken, and it's a fender bender, no big deal. But if it's something a little more serious, and, maybe you are a single mom. Maybe you have 3 kids at home. Maybe you can't go to work. Maybe whatever. It's going to be, then...
Definitely you should contact a lawyer at some point, whether it's, early on, right after it happens, or after you start realizing that you're having pain and you can't go to work, or even at the point where your insurance company sends you all these documents and you don't know what to do with them. At any point in time, you could really contact a lawyer and ask for some general advice or a consultation. I know at our firm we give free consultations, so
that's important to know too.
Wow, that is.
Well, yeah, because a lot of people worry. They think lawyers fees. It's expensive.
Oh yeah.
And it's a comfort to know that you're there someone's there to listen to you and kind of guide you
and educate you
and give you some legal advice, whether in fact you need them or not.
Right.
Are you sometimes in a position where you say, you know what, you're fine, you don't really need us?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They come in for consultation and just to be sure, and you say, no, you're fine, just keep doing what you're doing. And
yes, that happens.
That happens?
Of course it does. Yeah.
But well, this is all great information to know because I just was not sure, and as we mentioned, Sharon, we both had this conversation before. We weren't sure if we were hit or hit somebody. We don't know what we would do first, and I think many people don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I'm here to help.
And it's important that we to know of a trusted law firm that you can reach out to as well. And we would like to point our listeners in your direction for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, DeRoseLaw.ca. Thank you so much, Mary, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Click the channel subscribe button for full-length interviews and more from What She Said here on YouTube.